Welcome everyone and welcome to AI in Industry Day. I can't tell you how excited I am to have you all here and to talk with us about the kind of work that National AI Centre is doing. This event is sponsored by AI Group. We're so excited that, and Fujitsu and NVIDIA, and we're so excited to have you involved. The National AI Centre is funded by the Australian Government and coordinated by CSIRO, and together with our partners, Google and CEDA. We do a lot of work to try accelerate AI in Australia and create more responsible AI. But I'm going to hand over to Seb to just say a few words about where we are here today, as it's super exciting to be here at ACME. And over to you, Seb, the CEO.
Hey, thanks heaps. Thanks heaps for coming along. Rita, thanks a lot. We are, of course, on the land of the people of the Kulin Nation, and I pay our respects to elders past and present, and any First Peoples here with us today. So I'm the director and CEO of this fun place. My association with CSIRO goes back to when I was a little tacker, and CSIRO, I was growing up in Sydney, and I found out about the Double Helix Club and joined the Double Helix Club and did work experience up at the labs in Lindfield in year 10. That was a long time ago. I had more hair and it was less grey. But now here I run this place, which is your Museum of Screen Culture, and it's really fun to bring together the creative technology, science, and artistic and creative experiences. And Melbourne really is a centre for so much of that. As you saw from the video, I probably don't have to say a lot more because it's all in the video. But Gary and I were just chatting. I also, in a very early part of my career, used to write about 3D graphics cards for various video gaming magazines. And I remember getting my GeForce card and being very excited about that. But anyway, time has moved on. I would really love you to all visit Marshmallow Laser Feast, which is our new summer exhibition, which is really at that intersection of science and art, where you go and you become a cell, you become breath, and it's a very, very emotional experience where technology and the arts make all of the science around us make sense to people young and old. And as Rita knows, we had people coming out of that, the previews of that in tears. It was actually amazing. So I know there's going to be some secret prizes later on, but if you're around in Melbourne, please come along during summer. The other thing we have on is an AI commission down in our free gallery called Distributed Consciousness, which was done with the AI technologies of 2019, and it's very interesting to look at how that work was generated, and also the feelings of discomfort that it evokes amongst people for whom AI is still seen as magic rather than mathematics. And I think that's one of the things that we do really well here is reveal the processes and make technology and science accessible to more people and connect the arts with STEM. And that's probably all from me, Rita.
Well,
what do you reckon?
Thank you, Seb. And if anyone checks out the Tentaculous exhibition that is Distributed Consciousness, I highly recommend it. But thank you so much.
Thanks so much.
Thank you for doing our welcome to
Have a
country.
fabulous time here. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'd like to welcome you all to AI Month. It's actually Australia's first ever AI Month, and we're in the middle of it. We launched this year's AI Month on the 15th of November at Questacon in Canberra, and we have over 65 events that are available to you to learn more about AI and get involved in the AI industry, and I'll be telling you about some of them in a minute. But first, let's kick off our theme for the day. It's going to be myself presenting. My name's Rita Arrigo, and I'm joined by Gary Mancuso, who is from NVIDIA. Very exciting to have you here today.
Thank you, Rita.
So let's kick this off. lot of fun putting that together, and I know part of the team, there's some local content, there's some stuff that we took in Pullen Vale, but it was super exciting, and today we really want to go further to explore the theme and a bit about the agenda. Soon you'll hear from Inez, who's going to tell us a little bit about why we need to take up AI in our critical infrastructure and all industry. We also have Mahesh from Fujitsu. I'm very excited that we're going to be sharing with you some of the amazing partners that you would have seen in our expo. So True Recognition, Archistar, Catonic, Apparition and Samversa will be presenting. I'm also super excited we're going to have Dr. Kirsten Moore, who's going to share a little bit about the kind of work she's been doing in deception and how we can use deception to protect ourselves in a cybersecurity space with a concept called a honeypot. And then we're very excited to have Luke from NVIDIA, who's going to tell us about some of the latest stuff that's happening at NVIDIA, from generative AI to the Omniverse. And then we're going to finish off with 5 more amazing partners: Zania, RedGrid, Follogram, who I think you saw on the video, and Pi Exchange, and Marty, who's going to tell us a bit about that amazing game that was happening in the corner of the expo. And then we're going to spend some more time in the expo, so it's going to be a lot more fun to come back and check it out. So Seb did mention that we're having a marshmallow laser feast posting competition. So if you guys find anything interesting around how AI can make critical infrastructure smarter and safer, and you feel like posting about it, there'll be free tickets for you to witness the marshmallow laser feast that he was talking about. You'll be able to touch your own black hole and check out the way blood goes through your body, and it's a super amazing ticket. So please, and if you're going to post about the event, tag the National AI Centre. Okay, so I talked a little bit about who you're going to hear from, including Fujitsu, who are going to share a lot about. I love this topic of converging technologies and how human and AI collaboration will occur, and Mahesh is going to take us on a journey around that. CSIRO and NVIDIA with Luke as well. Our speakers that you're going to hear from throughout today, and our industry showcase, which I mentioned previously. Super exciting to have these amazing homegrown Australian companies representing the AI industry. But we also have a range of other AI industry partners. A lot of the work I do is about looking after our AI industry and helping it be adopted in Australia, and you can actually check out some of the partners we have available in the National AI Centre. I'm going to hand over to Gary, and I'm going to give him a clicker and everything, so that he could share with us a little bit about the AI landscape and some of the market trends that we're seeing.
Thank you, Rita. Thanks very much. Thanks to the CSIRO for having us here today. I'm very proud to say that the NVIDIA and CSIRO share a very close relationship. We're going on now into our 2nd year of our AI Nations MOU, which is about growing Australia's AI capability and ecosystem. And I'm very pleased to be supporting here, in particular, the National AI Centre. Rita, you do a lot of great work talking to our startup communities and whatnot, and it is very much in line with our own NVIDIA Inception program, which we have to help foster startups in this country via various incentives and help, technical assistance and whatnot. So in Australia, I don't think we're seeing a huge amount of AI-enabled software solutions being implemented out there just yet. It's coming, it's happening. I'm aware of quite a number of enterprises undertaking POCs right now, but fewer actually going into production. Some industries are ahead of others. No, I needed the other slide. Oh, you didn't want to sit on the... That's okay. Leave it. So where was I? So there's not many going into production. There's a lot of POCs going on right now, but mostly, until ChatGPT became a big thing earlier this year, then everyone started paying attention. And there are a lot of POCs being kicked off. There's a little bit of a level of hesitation out there for many reasons, but I think the large part of it is that some organisations don't actually know where to go. What do we need to do? What do we need to buy? What infrastructure do we need? And what sort of skills do we require? So hence why today's event is about having AI practitioners and creators of AI solutions meet up with potential consumers of AI. So welcome everybody, because I think we've got people from all walks of life here, and that's great. Okay, some interesting stats while we're on this slide is that, according to IDC, 33% of corporations, only 33% have an AI strategy, and about only 53% of projects actually go into some form of production. But most concerningly, and what overwhelmingly most of them said was an issue, was that the time to production, they would really like to cut that down, because right now we're sitting at an average of about 7 months from POC to production stage. And so this is where NVIDIA can help with our platforms, our frameworks and SDKs, with over 4 million developers worldwide working on our platform. So we're embedded in a lot of the solutions in the showcase that you see downstairs. A lot of these companies are partners of ours as well. We've been advancing AI for over 10 years. We have SDKs for conversational AI, recommender systems, autonomous vehicles, healthcare, robotics. There's a lot out there. Any use case you can think of, we've got something for it. And all of that is designed to make it easier for you to deploy your own AI-enabled solutions faster and more efficiently. You pair that with pre-configured containers and easily accessible SDKs and libraries and whatnot, and you're well on your way with NVIDIA. So, I seem to feel that there's a perception out there that we're just a GPU or a chip company, and nothing could be further from the truth, because the hardware is nothing without all that software engineering on top. Also according to IDC, in just 2 years, they project that 60% of the world's largest companies will be deploying some kind of AI in production. And that's a big shift. I mean, we're very close to 2024 now, and it's a big change from last year to next year. So this year was the year of the POCs, and next year I'm expecting that a lot of people are going to start implementing things. But all types of business technology and software applications can be enhanced with AI. Everything from talent acquisition for human resources, cybersecurity, operations, and particular customer service, which I think I've seen a lot of interest around at the moment. It's also, I think it's important to consider AI as simply more efficient software solutions, right? Software that can adapt. It will enable us to be more effective and help us do our jobs better, and just increase efficiency across the board. AI will be across all organizations, across the entirety of the organization going forward. And over 40,000 enterprises across the globe are currently using the NVIDIA AI platform. I'd like to see more Australian companies start to embrace AI for various reasons. I mean, AI has been hailed as the fourth industrial revolution, and it will change the way we operate. And while people like to talk sometimes about job losses and job replacements, I do believe that there will always be a need for human beings in the loop. It's a silly example, but in the same way that circular saws never put carpenters out of business, that just made them more efficient and more effective, I think AI has the same potential. And there's some examples that possibly I'll give later on when we close about what the Queensland University of Technology has done with autonomous trucks. We'll talk about that. In any case, AI will allow us to automate menial and repetitive tasks, saving the human being's intuition and greater expertise for the more productive and important tasks. I think that there will always be jobs associated with AI-enabled solutions, and importantly, if we do innovate, those jobs will remain here in Australia. But if we don't, we risk overseas competition and losing jobs to overseas. Now, I was going to play a video because I like this video, but we can send around the link, and the link is down on the. Oh, we've cut it off, but that's okay. This is an example of natural language processing in a customer service environment, and it utilizes one of our SDKs called Riva, and Riva enables you to do translation, text to voice, voice to text, and transcribe the conversation whilst guiding the customer service agent to the desired outcomes. Natural language processing utilizes a form of machine learning, right? But it's way better than a simple chatbot, because chatbots, they don't really leverage machine learning. They have a one-to-one relationship of question-response. Question-response. We've all interacted with chatbots before, and they're quite frustrating to use, and they're not very sophisticated. Natural language processing takes things to the next level. The next level, again, beyond natural language processing, and what has caught everyone's imagination, is large language models like ChatGPT. Now, ChatGPT is not the only one. There's a lot of other foundational models out there, Falcon 40, Llama, etc. And large language models go beyond basic machine learning. Now we're implementing a deep neural network, which is way deeper, much more sophisticated, many more possibilities. But an example I like to give to people, and not everyone's a Star Trek fan, so I apologize in advance, but I like to use Star Trek as an example because you don't have to be familiar with the show to understand what I'm talking about. But basically, the premise of the show is that humanity's on starships, we're exploring the galaxy now, and the computer is integral to the functioning of the computer and all the people on board. And people ask the computer, lower the lighting, please. And that's easy, like Amazon Alexa does that now, and Siri and whatnot. But it can also go further. So the captain might say, there's a passing asteroid. Can you please give me a mineral analysis of this asteroid? And while you're there, can you please project the trajectory on the view screen? And the computer goes, working, okay. Actually, do you want it might actually interpret your commands and say, I need clarification. So it might say to the captain, do you need core analysis as well, or just the crust, because the core is going to take longer? And the computer will reply and say, well, here's the trajectory, and blah, blah, blah. And I think this is important because this shows the power of large language models in being able to democratize the use of computers. So no longer are you going to be searching, like, I need to change the background of this PowerPoint. So where's the menu again? And I'm having now, going forward, you'll be able to say to the computer, please change the background to green and give me a half shade or something like that. And then it'll say like this, I'm lowering the shading by 50%. And you go, no, lower it another 5, you know? So that's one thing. But the other thing is that ChatGPT, for example, it wouldn't know anything about the universe or anything, so it wouldn't be able to answer the asteroid question unless Star Trek's ship or the computer was trained on Starfleet's history of astronomical data, right? So the data that you inject into a large language model is very important. And Luke will talk a little bit this afternoon. Luke, my colleague from NVIDIA, will talk about generative AI and large language models. And in particular, our SDK called NEMO. Now, NEMO, like Riva for natural language processing, NEMO is a tool to help you inject a foundational model with your corporate data. So if you implement a large language model inside your company, it knows your policies, your procedures, your legal documentation, all your acronyms, your IP, products, all of that. So we'll talk more about that later. Finally, one of the challenges that we think are facing enterprises today is what I touched on earlier, and Rita and I heard about this challenge recently, a generative AI event, right, Rita? Where one of the questions that was asked was, I don't know what to do, who do I need to hire, right? So you and I kind of played with ChatGPT a little bit because we thought, you know what, yeah, we cheated, right? But what's interesting here is that the answers were surprisingly good, and I'll just flick to some of the outputs, right? So, you know, I asked ChatGPT, what are the kinds of people that I need to hire to have an AI-enabled enterprise? And you'll end up with everything from data scientists to DevOps engineers. And interestingly...
Ethical AI specialists.
Yep.
DevOps engineers. It's pretty amazing.
Now, you may or may not need all of these, right? The idea is that, and the people here today, make solutions for you to consume without needing to hire your own people like this. But inevitably, some of the solutions you may wish to deploy may require some proprietary data or sensitive data, customer details, privacy. So you may want to start developing some of your own in-house. And so this is where our SDKs come in, but in particular the ethical AI specialists who might, and if you talk to True Recognition later, they can talk to you a little bit about privacy and how they go about implementing privacy. But the other thing is too is that didn't click. There we go. So we asked it also about if I wanted to implement a large language model, what kind of skills do I need? So these are the sort of job titles it came up with. And I checked all of this. I think it's pretty accurate and it's pretty cool. So everything from natural language processing research scientist to machine learning large language model specialist, you know. So, but if you have challenges about what kind of hardware, what kind of software, what ecosystem, where do I run this? At NVIDIA, we're a big believer in your AI, your model should be able to go freely from edge to on-prem to cloud to wherever the analytics need to be, and it should be readily portable. So if you have any questions about that or the types of people you might need in your organisation, feel free to come and see me later on. And that's all I had, Rita. Thank you.
That's amazing. Thank you, Gary. And thanks for sharing that stuff with us. It was really important. Thank you. I now have the pleasure of introducing Inez Willocks. You began your career as a journalist.
Many years
Very
ago.
proud of you. And he's been the Chief of Staff at The Age and Chief Political Correspondent. He's based here in Melbourne. A lifetime supporter of Collingwood Football Club. Now, that is very Melbourne. And you're still very happy. And he's also been appointed a member of the Order of Australia for all the work he's been doing in service to business, particularly to the industry and the community. So we're very honoured to have you here today to talk to us about why we need to take up AI in our critical infrastructure, etc. So over to you.
Thanks. Thanks, Rita. Great to see you and great to see all of you here today. It's an exciting day and an exciting time on our industrial journey that Australia and the world is on. I'd like to start by acknowledging the traditional elders of the land upon where we are, the Wurundjeri people and their elders past and present. Thanks for being here today. It's really exciting, as I said, to have an event like today where we start to bring together some of the great thinking around one of the great opportunities for the future for Australian business. It's interesting, last night I was sitting at the kitchen table with a daughter and son-in-law, and the conversation went to, what are you doing this week? And he told me, and I told him I was doing this event. He's 35. I said, I'm speaking at a artificial intelligence conference tomorrow, and without missing a beat, he said, it's pretty scary, isn't it? I thought that was a pretty interesting take. But we had a friend around for dinner last night as well, and his son, who's 22, uses AI in graphic design and film design. And he said, but my son's 22, he uses it all the time. That told me there's a bit of a real challenge we have here, not just with old people like me, but with younger people as well, concerns around what it means for their future, for the future of their industry, what it means for the economy as a whole. And that's sort of, in a way, what makes today's conversation so rich and worth having and very timely as well. So thank you to Rita and the CSIRO and all the other collaborators with the Australian Industry Group for bringing today together. The Australian Industry Group this year celebrates its 150th anniversary, and central to our purpose over those 150 years through our various iterations has been to help Australian business cope with change. And change is a constant, and business always has to cope with change. In our history, we've guided members through 2 world wars, through a depression, several recessions, 2 global pandemics, and countless industry plans. I'll let you into a little secret. When the current iteration of the Australian Industry Group was formed in 1998, we also trademarked and patented AI Group as a name. So we were prescient, we got there first, and we own it, okay? Just so you're clear. But today we are focused as an organisation on guiding policy makers, both at a federal, state and international level, as well as industry through the big 3 challenges facing the Australian economy as we settle into the 21st century. Those challenges are digitalisation, decarbonisation and diversification. Digitalisation, decarbonisation and diversification. We think of them as the 3 Ds. We believe that the adoption of artificial intelligence is crucial to meeting those challenges that business face dealing with those issues. While some of our member businesses create AI solutions, most are consumers of it. And just like the rest of the Australian business community and the Australian community as a whole, that is where the interest lies, in the consumption of artificial intelligence. I've got to say at the outset, from our perspective on behalf of industry, the most responsible thing that Australian businesses can do for their customers, for their suppliers and for their staff, as well as for the Australian economy as a whole, is to embrace the potential of artificial intelligence to transform their businesses. AI will, if harnessed properly, improve productivity, unlock human capital, and lift our international competitiveness. It will bolster resilience in our supply chains. It will provide cushioning in the face of potential geostrategic shocks. And more than we ever have for decades, we face repeated and prolonged geopolitical and geostrategic shocks. Where traditional supply chains plan and react to disruptions, digital supply chains predict and prescribe actions to take. And perhaps most importantly, AI will better enable companies to measure and to manage their carbon footprint, ensuring that as a nation and as businesses individually, they can meet their net zero ambitions. But I'm going to let you into a little secret, maybe one you haven't thought of. Businesses don't actually buy AI. Instead, they buy a solution to their problem that simply happens to have some AI in it alongside other digital technologies. So just think about that. They don't buy AI. We've heard that it can take approaches to up to 7 different vendors to find a complete AI-based solution to a business problem. It's what we commonly hear from our members. This is why the Australian Industry Group is excited to be working with the CSIRO on days like this to provide a platform for companies to see and to try out AI solutions and to learn how to use technology responsibly. And it's working. Facilitating hands-on practical workshops reduces the mystique that surrounds AI today. And it is mystique. This results in our members signing contracts, exploring new tech possibilities, and maximising the capability of the digital tech that they already own. That mystique is fueling the sense, the feeling, that AI is both everywhere and inevitable. However, and as we've seen with Australian adoption of Industry 4.0 practices, that future of a sudden and smooth uptake is not assured. We were just talking before, and the data tells us that Australians are amongst the most highly interested globally in artificial intelligence, but also the most wary and scared. That's what the data tells us. When you think about it, Australia is well behind similarly sized countries when it comes to the take-up of things like robotics, assistive tech and IoT in industry. Might we also fall behind our peers in bringing AI into the industrial ecosystem? That's the question we have to all confront today. Of course, many businesses are progressing Industry 4.0 strategies without using the explicit label of Industry 4.0. Instead, their primary objectives are to better manage their operations, to become more energy efficient, to improve productivity, to lower costs, or to meet new demands from customers. They simply see a business challenge and then they apply a technology to address it. As with all processes of technological uptake, change is neither perfect nor easy, and missteps are just as common as are successes. Regardless of where businesses are on their journey, most describe themselves currently as being beginners on Industry 4.0. The following are just some of the reasons given to us about why it is perceived to be so difficult to buy that robot or to implement that AI. Changing organisational mindsets and getting the organisation to appreciate the impact of digitalisation and automation is seen as a huge challenge. This inevitably leads to addressing fears regarding job losses and focusing on job quality improvement. A challenging conversation at the best of times for any business leader. However, in the current economic environment that is one of uncertainty and perhaps growing uncertainty, these sort of conversations can risk alarming staff and also risk triggering the loss and departure of key personnel. Another concern we hear of is that it will expose gaps in leadership. Technology helps leaders focus on leading, yet it also highlights where they don't. This elevates the need for people managers and critical thinkers, not just traditional process leaders. Don't assume that workers have a monopoly on job loss fears. Don't make that assumption. Data use is another area that gets raised with us. AI is only as good as the data it is fed. And while lots of data is being collected already, many businesses, as we've heard, aren't sure what to do with it all. Finding the right people to turn the collected data into insights or monetary returns is proving to be a real challenge. People might have the technical ability, but not the creative and communication skills to maximise the use of that data to support strategic goals. The other barrier is that there is widespread uncertainty as to who owns or controls the data. That lingers as a real concern. Another concern is interoperability issues. System integration has been a challenge, but grows in size as new systems like AI get added into the mix. Cybersecurity is also a concern raised by business. We're hearing that some companies are actually disabling their IoT-enabled machines to reduce cyber vulnerabilities. We hear that a lot. Finally, the ever-present challenge of justifying the expenditure is raised as a concern. Some businesses with digitalisation strategies have had difficulties defending expenditure on particular Industry 4.0 initiatives. We have to ask the question, is this a lack of vision or an unclear answer to the question on a return on investment? So let's flip this around and ask what works. Celebrating incremental success can be a good start. Some businesses have started small rather than changing everything at once to demonstrate success and have then moved on to seek approval for bigger, more transformative investment afterwards. Building a technology adaptive culture, getting traditional workers to trust data as much or even better than their experience and intuition is a step that is about getting comfortable comfortable with technology, whether it's with robots or machines more generally, or artificial intelligence, or the whole lot. Finding used cases outside of production and core businesses and encouraging companies to develop an overall AI strategy is key to lifting that take-up across the economy. Just pause for a moment and notice when I've been talking about how we need to, we think, approach this issue, I haven't mentioned the old favourites in industry policy like subsidies or tax breaks or any of the other usual suspects. That's because this is at its core a cultural and a skills problem, not a monetary problem. And that's how we have to think of it. Skill needs in advanced manufacturing and critical infrastructure are both broad and deep. We are hearing every day about skill shortages impacting industry. We are hearing every day about the jobs of not just the future, but the jobs of now, 80% of them requiring deep digital skills. The sectors within industry need a mix of both technical, generic and leadership skills. However, robotics and AI will increase the importance of digital within that skills mix even more. Skills in the digital space will be essential not just for specialist roles, but the entire industrial workforce. Every day it becomes clearer and clearer as an economy, the economy of now, let alone of the future, that we are short of the skills we need to both compete and to excel. Beyond business and leadership skills, the successful implementation of Industry 4 also requires two distinct but interrelated skills bases. One are the technical skills involved in the design, implementation and integration of digital industry technologies. A second are operational skills required in workforces that make use of tech which enable both its safe and its efficient utilisation. Our road system requires us to train both auto mechanics and car drivers. So too will Industry 4 require us to train builders and the users of robotics and artificial intelligence. While both are equally important, the builders are often prioritised in policy while the users receive less attention. And that is where a lot of the gain is made, in the use of the technology. And let's not forget about all that underutilised data. We need to upskill all kinds of workers to understand what data is telling them and how to use it to predict and to prepare for the future. But fundamental to maximising take-up of AI will be lifting the capability of leaders and managers to develop and execute new business strategies that ensures Australian businesses are equal to, if not exceeding, their international peers. Let me finish with this thought. AI is not new. It's been with us since the 1950s. In fact, you could argue it's almost been with us since the 1930s in some ways, as Alan Turing went to work on computers with his vision for an AI-generated future. Every time you get in a plane and the pilot switches on autopilot, that's AI. Every time you put your car on cruise control, that's AI. But what has happened since the introduction of ChatGPT just a year ago on Thursday as it were, has been a massive step change in terms of potential knowledge, excitement and fear about the role of AI in our lives. In terms of technology, that advance being put into the open market is perhaps like a Neil Armstrong moment, a giant leap for mankind, as it were. When it comes to technology, our vision needs to be this. It is sometimes said that America creates and Europe regulates. Our ambition and our vision for Australia as we square up to this new world is that we need to do more than just sit on the sidelines of both. We have to be active participants to help shape our future. So I'll finish with this. My hope is that we courageously create and use artificial intelligence to emerge as new businesses in a digitalised, decarbonised and sometimes disrupted world. We must always keep in the back of our minds, as every technological change has emerged through history, it causes massive disruption, it causes massive concern, but in the end it creates more jobs, new skills and new technologies. And that is where we should all be pitching our future to. Thanks very much.
Amazing.
Thanks, Rita.
Thank you. It's a beautiful
Thank you.
presentation. Really appreciate it. I love the hopefulness that you've brought with that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.
Going to introduce Mahesh Krishnan. We met years ago. He's an avid professional author, enthusiast of technology, and now the CTO at Fujitsu Uvance. And he's going to tell us a little bit about the converging technologies and the human AI collaboration that we can expect to have. And this is for you.
Oh, thanks, Rita. Thank you. Thanks for having me here. All right. All right, thanks. All right, good day, everyone. Quick show of hands. How many of you know what Fujitsu does in this field of AI? All right, just a couple of hands. Well, maybe I should go even, a step back. How many of you know about Fujitsu as a company? Okay, a few hands. Look, maybe I should go off script over here and then start with a funny story. About 18 months ago, when I first got the job offer from Fujitsu, I was picking up my 14-year-old daughter from school, and as I was picking her up, I asked her, "Hey, do you know? Have you heard of Fujitsu?" And she was like almost offended, right? She's a teenager as well, and she had this look on her face, and she's like, "Of course I know about Fujitsu." And I said, "Okay, so what do you know about Fujitsu?" And she made this gesture with her hand. It's a form of martial arts, right? So, no, that's jujitsu, not fujitsu. and then I spoke to my wife that evening, and I said, hey, look, I've got a job offer from Fujitsu. And right away she said, oh, that's the air conditioning company, right? Do you get some staff discounts? Anyway, look, yes, Fujitsu does make air conditioners, and yes, we do get a bit of staff discount as well. But in case you didn't know, we are a really large IT services company. So large that we are probably, we are within the top 10 companies in the world in terms of providing IT services across the world. Within Australia, we are within the top 5, probably 3 or 4 in terms of our turnover and everything else. But if you talk to a lot of people in the IT industry, my wife is in the IT industry, by the way. If you talk to a lot of people in the IT industry, they will know Fujitsu as a company that does desktop support or looking after help desks, looking after the infrastructure, looking after the network. We run data centers. We move people's workloads into the cloud. We run data platforms and everything else. But one of the things a lot of people don't know about is that we are a highly innovative company. And so we do dabble in some really cool technologies. For example, a couple of months ago, we just released a 64-qubit quantum computer, right? And in terms of AI, which is what we're going to be talking about today, we own about close to 1,000 patents in AI alone that we accumulated in the last few years. So someone was asking me outside just before, it's like, hey, do you guys really do AI? I didn't know that. So I just want to kind of like make sure we get the message across that we do a lot of work. So today, what I want to talk about today is I want to talk about human AI collaboration, and how that. I want to talk a little bit about what Fujitsu does in the field of AI in general. What are our views on AI, and I want to kind of like finish up with a bunch of use cases. Stuff that we've seen in the industry, how we're working with our customers in this space. Just a few use cases, and that'll probably pique your interest in terms of what you can do with AI as well. Now, Fujitsu is a very purpose-driven company, and our purpose is to make the world more sustainable by building trust in society through innovation. And this is not something we just put up in glossy brochures or fancy PowerPoint slide decks and everything else. We really believe in this. We've got an office of purpose that really drives this message through. And things like profit, of course, is important to us. We are answerable to our shareholders, investors, and everything else, but not at the cost of the planet. And that's really important to us. And so we believe in this concept of a regenerative society. So a sustainable society where environment, people's well-being, and economy are all kind of like interconnected within the boundaries of the planet, right? And we believe that digital technologies can play a really, really important role as far as sustainability and regenerative society has to play. It's a really important role to play in this. So there are 5 key technologies that we actively invest in. So there's a lot of research and development that we do in it, and we are leaders in these technologies. And so these 5 technologies are computing, network, AI, data and security, and converging technologies. All right. So let's start with computing. So when we talk about computing, we talk about we talk about raw processing power. And with AI these days, it requires a lot of computing power. You require a lot of GPUs. This is where our partners like NVIDIA come into play. So we invest a lot into the space. We also, like I said earlier, we invest in quantum computing. We just announced a couple of months ago a 64-qubit quantum computer. And we get a lot of people to test their quantum algorithms in quantum simulator and things like that, right? But that's still an evolving technology. And this is where, until quantum computing really evolves, and we're able to do accelerated development in using the technology, we rely heavily on HPC computes and everything else. And we believe that there's a big role to play in that. And so we invest heavily into that space. Networking is another one. We have large amounts of data. AI generates a large amount of data, requires large amounts of data. We need to make sure this data moves quickly across the network, gets from one place to another. So we invest a lot into network. When we talk about network, we talk about a lot of things like 5G network and the next generation of 6G networks and all that. AI for us is a centerpiece for everything that we actually do, right? And we talk about things like critical infrastructure, right? Now, even in networking, And you know, it's a centerpiece of everything that we do. And then when you mix it with all the other key technologies that I spoke about, right, it generates even more value. And just take the example of networking alone. And we were talking about critical infrastructure. 5G networks, Future produces a large, infrastructure that runs in places like Dish Networks in the US for their public Wi-Fi, public 5G networks. And these networks have to be on all the time, right? But then they do consume a lot of energy as well, being a critical infrastructure. So how do you kind of like work efficiently with this, with these, RUs and so on, so that you not only provide the best service, you kind of like use energy efficiently, but the quality of service also don't drop. This is where we use AI for a lot of that stuff. AI, I'll touch upon AI a little bit more detail in the next slide. Data and security is another one of the areas for us. We live in a world where, if we live in a zero trust world, we don't trust the data, we don't trust the source it's coming from. So how do we use technology to move from a zero trust world into a trust in everything kind of world? And so we invest a lot into this. This is where we invest in things like distributed trust, distributed ledgers, blockchain, biometric authentication, and so on and so forth. Lastly, I want to talk about converging technologies, right? This is where we kind of like tap into all these digital technologies, right? And then we bring in humanities to it, the behavioral sciences to it. I'll probably explain this with a bit of example, particularly we talk about things like smart cities and so on as part of the critical infrastructure. Think about people coming into work into the CBD. I know a lot of people are still working from home these days, but when you're driving into a city, it builds up a lot of congestion in the roads because everyone wants to work in the CBD, everyone wants to come here. And not only that, congestion introduces carbon emissions and things like that. So how do we kind of like tackle this problem as a city, right? A smart city, how do we do it? There are a number of ways we can actually do it, right? We can basically say, hey, look, maybe we'll increase the toll in the roads, and so people may not want to drive anymore. They may be, more keen on taking public transport now. And maybe we can actually reduce the cost of public transport, maybe a couple of dollars, and then suddenly that may actually make a big impact. Maybe we increase the price of parking within the city. Maybe we can actually build bike paths, right? And that also promotes a bit of healthier lifestyle for people. We can do any one of these things, and then we can wait for a year and then see whether it's working or not, right? But if we could actually digitally rehearse a lot of these things using AI and behavioral sciences and everything else. So you'd be able to digitally rehearse these things. This is where we look at things like digital twins. And here we almost, with the behavioral sciences to it, we add another twist to it and bring in the social digital twins aspect to it. So we can do a number of things using these things, right? Now, in terms of AI, I did say earlier that we feel to invest a lot into AI technologies. I want to talk about a few areas that we actively do a lot of research in. Starting with human sensing AI. Now, this is the kind of AI where you use computer vision. So you use feeds coming out of cameras, and you use AI, and then we can work out what the person is doing. Complex behaviors can be analyzed with this one. Now, this is the kind of technology that we use in World Gymnastics Championships. So we have cameras, and as the gymnasts are going through their rounds in Olympics and World Gymnastic competition, it can analyze each and every move of the gymnast and can give you a precise scoring. So if the gymnast is doing something like a switch leap or something like that, it can basically go and see how far a foot has gone over the head, what angle an elbow has been bent, and so on and so forth, right? And it can assist the judge in giving a precise scoring that they use. The same thing we use in one of the technologies that we have called Actualizer. So what Actualizer does is, it looks at the skeletal frame of a person, and then I can say, well, I've lifted my left hand or lifted my right hand, or I'm walking. And it can identify a lot of these things by looking at the skeletal frame, and then you can put together a series of these actions, stitch together a series of actions to find the behavior of that person. And it's got a number of uses. You think about things in a warehouse setting, for example, and there are people who are lifting heavy things, right? And they're lifting these heavy things, and there's a propensity to injure yourself. And you can look at the skeletal frame and determine and say, hey, look, you're not bending the knees while you're lifting these things, right? Or they're reaching over the top of the shelf to grab something that's quite heavy, and again, you could injure yourself. Now, we use the Actualizer technology to kind of like look for these things and then change the behavior of people and say, hey, look, don't do these things. There are alerts that are sent out, and we can actually do proper training on this one. Look, the number of uses for this human sensing AI is huge. We use it in every environment, like the retail. We spoke about it in the smart stores, smart cities, factories, and so on and so forth, right? The next two ones that I want to talk about real quick around explainable AI and trusted AI. It fits in very, going back to our focus around sustainability and so on. This kind of like fits in that, trust in society and everything else. Explainable AI, let me explain explainability with an example. You think about going and applying for a credit card or a loan for that matter, right? You apply for a home loan, and then the black box AI comes back and says, like, your loan amount is like $1 million or whatever it is. You may have another person, a friend, a colleague, or whatever, who makes probably the exact same amount of money that you make, and their loan amount could be 1 million, 1.5 million, whatever it is, right? How do you explain? So the explainable AI can actually tell you exactly why that person had 1.5 and why you had 1 million. And this is really important because for us to start trusting the AI, right? The black box system doesn't work anymore because, why was it? Was it a bias against me that, it was a lower credit limit? So this helps us build trust within the system. And this explainable AI, we call it deep learning. It kind of like, so we call it wide learning. What it does do is it builds out all the inference models and things like that, and can be used for other things. If you want to work out defects in products, you can actually go back and work, why was defect introduced into the product? So the use for this is like is quite huge. Trusted AI is another thing that we actually focus on. Invariably, humans have an inherent bias in everything that we do, right? Implicit or explicit. And this kind of like reflects onto the data that we collect and the algorithms that we write and everything else. So I think Ines kind of like mentioned the AI is only as good as the data that we feed in, right? The data has got bias in it, right? It's got all these elements of bias that's going to kind of like project to the system that you build. So trusted AI, it kind of like helps remove all the intersectional bias that is there in the data. It says, hey, look, these are the tweaks that you can actually make to the data to make sure that you remove the bias on it. Discovery AI is another area that we focus on. Again, I'll explain it with an example. Think about treatment for cancer, right? And you find that someone is getting treatment for cancer, but the treatment is actually working for them. How do you find out that why is it that this person doesn't work, or like this set of people, it's not working for them? And you may have collected a large amount of data. What something like Discovery AI allows you to do is it kind of like finds a causal relationship with the large set of data that you have. And you may find out that, hey, look, due to the genetic makeup of this person, this kind of treatment doesn't work. So you can go on early on in the piece, try and find alternate treatments for this person as well. The last one is around generative AI. We do a lot of work in it. One of the biggest problems that we have around large language models is around things like hallucination. So we work on things like anti-hallucination, like how do you identify that and all that. So we do some work on it. And I'll talk about an example using Gen AI in a bit. But first, one of the key things, I think Gary has touched upon this as well, around the adoption of AI in terms of, it's a bit of a challenge for a lot of people right now. One of the statistics that gets thrown around, I think there are different numbers that different people use. 19% of the companies which are interested in AI have been unable to use AI solutions in production. And one of the things is that the barrier of entry for a lot of people is quite huge. They really don't know where to get started. The rate of change of AI is quite huge. Availability of AI expertise is a problem. And there are multiple technologies, multiple tools that are available, right? People really don't know where to get started. And so that has been a bit of a problem for a lot of people. But the good news is that when people do move into proof of concepts, 73% of the companies who've done a proof of concept have actually been able to move it to actual use in production, which is kind of like heartening. But getting started is a bit of a problem, right? And so what Fujitsu have done is we've kind of like introduced two platforms to get people started quickly within AI. One of them is actually called Kozuchi. And so what we've done within Kozuchi is we've set up all the infrastructure that you need to run your AI workloads. We set it up in the cloud. It runs on Azure right now, but we have plans to get it to work on the other clouds as well. And some of the the core technologies that I actually spoke about earlier, things like wide learning and discovery AI and Actualizer and everything else. These, we call them as the core AI components. We package all of these things into that environment, into the platform. But more importantly, what we've actually done is we've built some business applications that lie on top of it. So for example, you take about self-checkout as an example, right? There are lots of fraud that actually happens in self-checkout. So how do you use AI to fight it, right? So we've got all these pre-built business components, we call them AI innovation components, that we've pre-built into it, right? And I spoke about, and another example is consumer behavior analysis. So you know how, if you're walking through a store, how to use vision AI and everything else. So start looking at the behavior of consumers, right? Where are they spending most of the time in the store? Are they picking things off the shelf, putting it back? You know, what's their interest level and everything else? We can gauge a lot of these things, right? So we've got these pre-built innovation components that companies, businesses can use and be productive right away. Another platform that we actually built, we call it the AI Test Drive, and we run it in Fujitsu data centers, right? And you know, if you've got large amounts of data, if you're a startup, if you're a researcher and so on, you may have large amounts of data, and you really don't know where to get started. We provide you with the infrastructure setup, all the GPUs that you need, all the NVIDIA GPUs. You got, we work with a whole bunch of our partners, storage, security, all the tooling that you need. It's basically a pre-built system that you can start running your workloads right away. What is more important that is we let people use it for free for 14 days so that you can actually test your workloads. If it's working, great, you can actually proceed. Otherwise, you know, it's fine. So I want to quickly touch upon some of the examples of how people are using AI. And I'll touch upon harnessing AI for wildlife protection. Now, one of the things that we, one of the problems that we have, one of the fears people actually have is around shark attacks when they go swimming in the beach, right? But if you think about it, I think about 15, there are probably about 15 deaths caused by shark attacks. It's still a lot, but the kind of measures that we actually take to prevent it, like putting things like shark nets and everything else, or culling shark to prevent a lot of these problems, have other effects on the, you know, it starts to affect the balance of the ecosystem itself that we live in, right? So we worked with the Department of Primary Industries. They fly drones over the beaches where people are swimming and everything else. It goes out, looks at the, you know, takes an aerial view of the thing and identifies sharks over there. And it starts to alert the lifeguards and so on, so they can actually take preventive measures if a shark is spotted. And this technology is actually extremely good. I mean, you look at it, I've looked at some of the video footage, and that looks like a shadow or something like that, right? And you think that looks like a shark, and in both occasions I could be wrong. The shadow would probably be a shark, and what I thought was a shark was something else. It's probably a wave of a shadow of a wave or something like that, right? This technology is extremely good. We also use this technology in other areas. So we fly drones in the bush area, so where they want to count the number of kangaroos that are there. So having, you know, identifying the number of kangaroos in a specific region is kind of like important to have that balance in the ecological system, right? Right now what they do is like they have a spotter who goes in and then he looks up and looks at one kangaroo or counts the number of kangaroos. If they spotted 2 kangaroos, then they multiply that number by 50 and say, oh, they've got 100 kangaroos in this area, right? Obviously, that's really, really inaccurate. So what this drone does, it actually flies over a region, and it looks like, from the human eye, you look at it and it looks like a speck over there, and it can actually pick out that it's a kangaroo, and it'll actually also pick up what type of kangaroo it is, right? So it's a very, very precise, you know, it uses machine learning to pick up a lot of these things. Another cool thing that Curtin University has done, they've got a department called Hive. What they do is they send these remote-controlled submarines, right, 2 kilometers down, and a couple of sites off the coast of Western Australia and one in coast of PNG. HMS Sydney 2 is one of those ships that they look. They're all shipwrecks. They take photos of all these things, and they use AI, and they use a lot of compute power to put together a 3D model, right? So it's an immersive 3D model that they can actually look at the models of the shipwreck. Another use case that I want to talk about is around suspicious behavior detection. Now, we work with the government department, transport department, and one of the problems that are there in bus interchanges in this specific area is that although they have CCTV cameras and they have like good lighting, there's a lot of stuff that actually happens, like fights that go on, vandalism, all that kind of stuff happens, right? So again, we use cameras and AI to kind of like look and identify suspicious behavior way ahead of the time. As soon as it's happening, you send an alert. Previously, when all you could actually do is there are not enough eyeballs to actually look at all the CCTV camera footage, right? All it basically ends up in some kind of like storage. And reactively, people go and say, hey, look, this incident happened at 8 p.m. on this day, and then go and look at the footage to find out what actually happened. Here, the AI will determine what's actually happened, send alerts, and they can quickly de-escalate the situation. Maybe they can make a call out through the public address system saying, hey, oi, what's going on over there? We are watching what you're doing, right? And can quickly de-escalate a fight. So that they're kind of like preventive, and then they can send people out as well. Or it can detect things like falls that have happened and send alerts. So a lot of uses. And of course, you can think about it doesn't just like bus terminals. The use for this is enormous. You can put it on railway stations, airports, any public spaces, stadiums, and so on and so forth. I had to throw this in because everybody talks about Gen AI these days. I'll want to talk about one specific case of AI. This is a large automobile company in Australia. One of the calls that they get frequently over there is people calling up and saying, hey, look, I've got this model of this vehicle from this year, and I want to know what the towing capacity of this vehicle is. Or like, how do I put in like child seats in right? So what the people in the contact center do is they will quickly look through the manual, digital manual. I mean, I'm not, and then they'll say, hey, look, this is what you need to do. And this seems like a really good use case for, like a ChatGPT kind of thing. You just go and ask the question and it'll reply, right? But the problem that people actually have is around hallucination, right? So how do you fight this thing? You want the data to be accurate. You don't want the chat engine to make up answers that it doesn't know, number one, right? And it doesn't want you to give the wrong answer. Say you wanted looking for the towing capacity of a vehicle from 2018, it shouldn't give you the one from 2020, which is higher, and it's absolutely wrong. So what we do is we've got a ChatGPT-like interface for the agents. They type in the question, it comes back with the answer, and not only with the right answer, the warnings and everything, it'll also give you reference to where that piece of information can be found in the document, right? And so they're absolutely certain that this is the of the answer that they've given to the customer. I thought I gave you a whole bunch of cool examples. There's a last example that I want to talk about is more around, it's really life-saving, right? Now, we work with Macquarie University, and we're using AI to detect brain aneurysms. Now, brain aneurysms, I think, affects the number of deaths in a year due to brain aneurysms is around 500,000 people in a year. And a typical radiologist spends about 15 minutes looking through the scans to determine whether there are any blemishes in there. And some of these things can be like a millimeter or smaller, right? It's hard work to actually find some of these things. And what we've done is we can actually use AI to look through all the scans and determine whether there is a brain aneurysm, right? What is the chance of actually developing into a brain aneurysm? And then that can, and once the radiologist finds this information through the AI, they can then validate it through their own experience and expertise as well to validate that. So, really good way of actually saving lives. Look, what I've actually done is I've kind of like given you just a bit of this is always the tip of the iceberg, if I can call it that. Just 5 use cases against thousands of cases that you can actually potentially use. Basically human AI interaction can happen. So hopefully that gets you thinking. And look, Future's got a booth over there. Come and have a chat with us if you are interested in getting started with AI. If that's a bit of a problem for you, come and have a chat with us. We can actually tell you how we can actually help you. And I'll be there to answer any of your questions as well. So please come over and say hello. All right, that's all I had. Thank you.
Hear more about the human AI collaboration. But right now I'm really excited to introduce our showcase. We've got true recognition. I might get you to stand there. Sure. Where's Senversa? Come on up these stairs. Archie Star, Catonic, and Apparition. Have a seat. This is such an exciting moment because it's so wonderful to see that we have this amazing homegrown Australian AI. I'm going to hand this over to you. Wow. And I know you got the pass, and go for it.
Thanks very much, Rita, and hi everyone. Really nice to meet you. So my name is John McGiffin, CEO from True Recognition, and just give you a bit of a history around how True Recognition got started. We've been around since 2016, and I used to work for a very large food company. So food companies, it's really critical to keep your costs down because it's a very competitive environment. And so I worked for a food company that made fries for McDonald's, and I'm sure everyone here has had fries from McDonald's, and you may have noticed black spots in fries. And so the way that the fry is made is all these potatoes come into a big vat. The peel then explodes off it, and then the potato comes through these crisscross knives that then create the fries. They then get blanched, and they come along a conveyor belt. And then what happens is the fries fall from a conveyor belt up here to down here. And as they're falling through the air, there's colour sorting cameras there that are analysing the fries, looking at them and going, that one's got a black spot. And a jet of air fires at that fry and flings it out of the way. So Gary touched on the fact earlier today that there's a lot of really menial tasks that humans get to do. And unfortunately, in this case, it obviously saves humans having to sit there and look for black spots in fries. Interesting enough, it also works for peas as well, so black spots in peas. So, there we go, I get to use the clicker. So yes, as I mentioned, John McGiffin from True Recognition. So True Recognition, we are a specialist recognition company or recognition platform company. And so we have a platform that enables you, gives you a wide range of choice around a number of different AI applications. So I should point out that we don't build AI applications. Instead, we're all about addressing the issues that Ashiana's touched on earlier today about how do I use them, how do I exploit them across the enterprise. And so as you would have seen up there with all the different modules sliding in and sliding out, we can basically make it really super easy for organisations to start that AI journey. As Gary also mentioned, 53% of AI applications don't make it to production. So our job in life is to make it easy for you to consume them, take away a lot of the guesswork and enable you to test them in parallel so that you can then work out this engine works best for me in this situation. So let's have a look at an infographic from a supermarket, and this is not meant to be scary if you're from a supermarket, if you're a supermarket customer here. So as you will see up here, there's a wide range of applications for recognition technologies or AI. And one of the key things about True Recognition is we're not here just to be a security company, we're here to serve the enterprise. And as you go through here, you'll see everything that's in black is related to security, everything in blue is more for the insights team, and anything in green is for safety. So supermarkets have security cameras in place already, and so how can I sweat those assets and use them for the enterprise? And so this is a big reason behind the True Recognition platform, is because we can bring in a single feed from a camera, say in an aisle down here, bring it in and actually split that feed and deliver it to up to 20 different AI applications all in parallel. So this is massive. So this is how I truly now really start to scale the adoption of AI. And so by doing this, it also gives us the ability to address the major issues that Gary, Ennis and Mahesh have talked about, is all the big challenges organisations are struggling with across the enterprise. How do I deal with security? So if you imagine if over time, if I want to start consuming all those AI applications, it's going to become quite complex. Imagine all the API integration I've got to do. But by having a platform that sits there and obfuscates that away from you, we make life much easier. So we're really here to address the big issues such as how do I deal with privacy and ethics across the organisation, how do I deal with bias, how do I maximise accuracy. So all those concerns that we see bubbling up inside organisations, that's what a platform is really here to address, those issues for you. So that's it.
Thank you. You've got one more slide though.
Sorry, one more slide.
Because you've got to put up your
yes, I need
QR
to mention
code.
this. So we've got an awesome team here, and please, we've got a stand set up. If you're interested in any more information, you can scan a QR code there, or please come and see us scan. stand, I should say. If you're interested in how we do responsible AI, I really encourage you to come and learn about how a platform enables you to do that. So thank you very much for your time, everyone.
John might even invite you to his demo centre in the Docklands.
That's right. We have got an experience centre in Docklands. You're welcome to have a look at as well. So thank you.
So we've got Archie Star next. Archie Star, of course, it's like the Archie Star. Over to you. Oh no, is it Archie Star? No, it's Catonic.
Okay.
Swap. Sorry. Over to you, darling.
Right, so what have we got here? We've got 20% reduction in document processing time, 50% improvement in process efficiencies, 50% reduction in staff training time, and 90% accuracy of data extraction. All of this leading to improved customer experience and application approval times. What am I talking about? We were actually approached by one of the regional banks here in Australia, and they had a case where they were looking at basically streamlining and making more efficient their process of bank loan applications. And they were at a starting point where a lot of this was actually manual. And what that means is the staff receiving an application that's filled with documents that come in many forms. So that could be structured data, unstructured data, at worst also scanned documents, and that might involve a bit of optical character recognition technology to extract that, classify those documents, and this is basically done on Catonic platform. So what exactly is Catonic? Catonic is an end-to-end enterprise AI platform. It's a multi-layered solution that has 3 key value propositions. 1 is to harness your own proprietary data to power AI applications that increase employee productivity or boost customer experience. 2nd, seamlessly integrate any language model, data store, or infrastructure of your choice. And 3rd, manage your entire AI model lifecycle needs on a single unified platform. And for a limited time only, we'll be available outside by the booths for you to come and learn more about Catonic. Thanks very much.
Amazing, Meg. Thank you. That was brilliant. Thank you so much. All right. Apparition.
So good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. I'm Raji Iyer from Apparition. I'm the COO and co-founder. I'm really excited to be here today to share a little bit about what we do. We're all on the cusp of the next technology revolution. Everybody's spoken about it. But what we do is we are really here to be your trusted partner through that journey. So we are Apparition. We are an immersive technology, which is augmented reality, virtual reality, extended reality, and artificial intelligence platform, solutions, and services company. Yes, we do all 3 of them. We understand the challenges that enterprises face today, and we've, again, spoken a lot about it. Thanks to Ines for highlighting quite a bit of that, and we work very closely with you to bridge those gaps so that we can build meaningful and scalable solutions that last. The way we work closely with you is we identify your problems and needs, and we also identify any shortfalls and shortcomings that you may have that we may need to bridge, but also according to your needs and feedback, we craft a solution for you. But that's not all what we've got. So at Apparition, we have an emerging technology platform, which has a range of modules that can be used by your enterprise developers through our APIs and SDKs. We also have pre-built solution templates that you can easily customize and use. Our platform is composable in nature, and it's crafted in a way that suits your enterprise, not just for technology adoption, but also for change and change management through that process. We've powered a number of industry use cases and scalable products to date. And one of that you see on the screen right over there, which is my favorite solution set, is actually a very powerful solution kit that runs off the edge infrastructure and that provides smart diagnostics and intelligent troubleshooting coupled together with remote assistance. I also want to talk about our approach. I touched on it a little bit earlier. We work very closely with you, but we also adopt a proof of concept approach, where we seamlessly transition everything that we've learned from the proof of concept into a scalable solution that can integrate and sit within your infrastructure, your platform, and also work with your people on the change. Our people and processes go hand in hand with the platforms, or our platforms also enabled for you to adopt this change. We come with over 10 years of delivering these solutions. We started off very earlier on playing with augmented reality and extended reality and AI. So we do come with solid industry knowledge and lots of enterprise use cases that our platform's been built on. We've been very privileged to service a wide range of customers globally, and also more privileged to have a very strong partnership network like the likes of NVIDIA, who help us, give us extended capabilities in how we service our customers. So if you want to know more, feel free to come out and speak to us. We've got a desk out in the front there. Also connect up with me on LinkedIn. My handle is Raji Iyer, and very nice to see you all, and I look forward to sharing more with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Raji. Over to Sam Bursa.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I think you're in the crowd somewhere, it's a bit bright. Thanks for joining us today. I'm honoured to be here as the lead of data intelligence at Versa, because today I want to share with you our vision for a more insightful approach to environmental analysis. So our approach probably sounds a little bit different to everyone else here, because like some of our other co-guests, we've got over a decade of experience delivering environmental services all across Australia. But our deep technical expertise in helping our clients is really focused on environmental challenges in Australia. That's exactly what we're focused on. So our approach to AI is actually about embedding AI in everything we do. And I really liked Ines' 3Ds, where as a part of the digital group, we're really focused on digitising our processes. We're really focused on decarbonising the environment. We have teams that do this directly with clients. And as a part of the digital team, we're helping the rest of the business diversify into these areas. Now, what we're really focusing on, though, to do this, as many of you might already be doing, is really just focusing on the key data sets that we already hold. So finding them, elevating them, and really trying to figure out where is this knowledge data that is unique to us. So our AI journey here today begins with our Portal product. So Portal is our web GIS. It's an innovative platform that empowers our clients to interact with data that we deliver to them. A lot of our data is spatial and temporal in nature, but we use it to deliver reports as well. So how do we do this? Well, through the magic of location intelligence and a little touch of AI. So what we're doing today is we're trying to imagine a world where clients can not only call their consultant to ask them some questions about the report, which is very important as a consultancy, but allow them to interact and converse with the reports directly. So what we've done is we've injected a language model that we've trained to not hallucinate and be very focused on the key technical issues that we are most focused on, and allow the clients to interact with those directly. Because as some of you may understand, technical reports have to be technical in nature. So we're giving our clients the ability to try and cut through some of that. So, and our commitment to, sorry, apologies, I missed my slide. Our commitment to progressing environmental challenges doesn't stop there. We're also really proud to introduce our groundbreaking model called SAGE. SAGE is really about trying to predict a suspicion of contamination. And that might sound a little bit obscure to some, but the way environmental regulations work for land pollution in Australia, it starts with that suspicion. And we've taken something that often might take a few hours or a few days, and we've realised that we've found some anomalies that are present in a lot of sites that have land use change over time, and we've combined that with our deep historical expertise and knowledge of the sites across Australia. And through that, we've released our first development version of SAGE, which allows us on demand to figure out a suspicion of contamination and advise clients or internal staff exactly what the next steps are on those sites. So in a world where climate change and industrial contamination threatens our well-being, we believe in the power of technology to be a force for good. Our suite of AI products and services is not just about cutting-edge technology. It's about redefining our relationship with the environment. So as we embrace this new era of environmental intelligence and AI for good, and I'm really happy to see all the amazing things Fujitsu's doing, let's all join together to use these tools, use this knowledge responsibly to all try and make a good difference. Thanks.
Thank you. Now, Richard, I think a lot of you would have seen the amazing video at the beginning where we mentioned Archistar. We just had a little bug with the presentation, so I'm just going to put up the showcase and hand it over to you to tell us a little bit about Archistar.
All right, thanks, Rita. Yes, my slides are not there, so just close your eyes and imagine these wonderful slides as I talk to them. So Archistar, so basically we started about 10, 12 years ago by Dr. Ben Curie. He was an architect, he was a computer programmer, and he did a PhD in parametric design. So basically generating building designs programmatically rather than using AutoCAD and the like. About 5 years ago, we launched a platform called Archistar, and it was directed towards the property development industry. Now, that's a very complicated industry. You need a lot of consultants. You need a lot of experience. You have to combine a lot of different bits of data together to do an assessment of a site. Now, some developers are looking at 50 to 100 sites on any given week. They don't want to spend a lot of time on ones that aren't going to work, and they don't want to spend a lot of money either. So our platform combined planning data, so we digitised about 25,000 planning documents onto a platform. We combined market information, risk information around bushfire contours, everything like that. So a property developer could find a site, do a rapid assessment, generate actual building designs programmatically, and then do a feasibility. So that's what our platform is doing. It's combining a lot of different data sets onto one platform and using generative design, parametrically building buildings and the like. So this gives property developers instantly, what used to take 3 or 4 or 5 weeks and a lot of consultants, literally in minutes they can assess a site and determine whether it's worth spending a lot of time and effort onto it. So that was the genesis of Archistar, but where we've sort of moved to lately in the last couple of years is around compliance, automating the compliance checks during the development application and planning assessment routine. So for those that have ever built a house and put in the submission to council, I haven't heard one person say that was a really enjoyable experience. It could take months, and it can go back and forth between the council and yourself about 5, 6 times. So we did a couple of pilots, one in Victoria with the Victorian government and one with New South Wales government of, can we programmatically do this? Can we do these compliance tests instantly? And we did a couple of very successful pilots. So volume home builders could upload their plans for a particular plot of land and instantly get a report that goes line by line, all the different compliance checks, pass or fail, why it passed, why it failed, things like that, so that they could then submit a fully compliant design. When the planning officer gets it, they can see all the planning checks have been done against their local code, and that goes through quicker. So those pilots showed that the time saving was anywhere between 2 months and 4 months, and for the cost of for the average size home, the cost saving was between $35,000 and $40,000 just by reducing the amount of time. So since then, we've got cities around the world now starting to adopt it. So over in Vancouver, Houston, Austin, there's about 5 or 6 of them, and more to come over there. Funnily enough, Australia, the local governments here are a bit slower, but we are now in discussions with about 10 to 15 local governments here. And interestingly, the ones that really get it are the regional ones. They're very switched on in terms of the importance of having this type of technology assisting their planners because they don't have many planners. And one question we always get asked when we're sort of presenting to a council and there's 20 planners looking at us thinking, the question always comes out, is this going to replace me? Is this going to replace our jobs? And it's not. And the theme here, it's not about replacing anyone's job. It's about augmenting it. And and our answer has always been, look, it's not AI is going to replace your role. It's the people using AI are going to replace your role. So I'll leave it at that. But we also have a stand over there. I can show you live if you want to look at a particular site and build some buildings on the spot. We're sitting out there. So thank you.
good. Can we get a group shot? Just going to get a group photo and then move on to Kirsten. Yes, yes, stand up. Photographers over here. Let's give them one more round of applause. Thank you so much. I'm very proud to introduce Dr. Kristen Moore. We met years ago when we were playing in contact centres at Telstra, and now Kristen is inventing some amazing stuff at CSIRO, particularly in the cybersecurity space. She's going to talk to us about harnessing AI for cyber resilience with deception and generative AI. Over to you.
Thanks so much, Rita. Thanks, everybody. Today I'm going to delve into a couple of examples of how AI-driven strategies such as cyber deception and AI assistance in red versus blue team cyber training exercises can enhance our security posture. So, first up I wanted to talk about our DECAS project, Cyber Deception as a Service. So this was a cybersecurity cooperative research centre project, which was a collaboration between CSIRO's Data 61 and Pen 10, who is the industry partner. Pen 10's a Canberra-based cyber technology company. So I'll give you an overview of some of the work that we did for that one. So to give some context, an enormous amount of money is spent on cybersecurity in Australia and globally, but the breaches continue. And in fact, it currently takes, on average, 277 days to detect and contain a cyber breach, which is an enormously long time to have an adversary running free on your network, doing whatever they like. And according to the IBM Ponemon Cost of a Data Breach report, the global average total cost of a data breach in 2023 is $4.45 million US dollars. And in Australia specifically, that number sits at around US $2.7 million on average. So these statistics motivate a rethink of our approaches to cybersecurity, to incorporate more proactive cyber defence tools into our existing security arsenal. And we argue the case for employing deception. As network owners, defenders can use their home field advantage to present information to attackers in specific ways that take advantage of their innate human biases. So we see cyber deception as a tool to complement all your existing security solutions, not to replace any of them, but rather an additional proactive security tool to try to enable the defenders to regain the advantage. And so the predominant tool of cyber deception is the honeypot. And the idea of a honeypot is very simple. You just put fake artifacts or traffics onto the network that legitimate users have no reason to interact with. And so therefore any interaction gives you a very strong signal that something's going on that you need to take a look at. So unlike the typical reactive security solutions you find in security operations centres, which have many, many false alarms, the honeypot will select the most suspicious events because they are targeting a resource that no legitimate user has a use for. Okay, and so depending on the honeypot, there can also be other advantages, like being able to infer the adversary intent from the type of honeypot they engage with or its content. And if your honeypots are interactive and sophisticated enough, an adversary may be fooled into deploying their tools and demonstrating their tactics and procedures on your honeypot so that you can then go and examine their whole interaction forensically. And of course, another benefit is that honeypots also cause a lot of delay and frustration because once it's known that there is deception on your network, the adversary has to be very careful not to betray their presence. So if done well, deception can alter the mindset, confidence, and decision-making process of an attacker. But in order to realise these benefits, we want to create honeypots that are very realistic and interactive. And what we found when we started out a number of years ago, though, is that existing deception technologies exist on a continuum of sophistication with simple but automated tools on one end and detailed, realistic but largely handcrafted traps on the other end. But of course, generating realistic honeypots by hand requires a significant amount of tedious work. So we really want them to be automatically generated so that we can scale their deployment and not have to curate the content by hand each time. So this presents an opportunity for machine learning. And so this was really the main goal of our project, to scale and automate the creation of realistic and enticing simulated content using AI. And so we use a variety of generative AI-based tools to create our deceptions. So, of course, enormous pre-trained language models like OpenAI's GPT that can generate text from a prompt. We've been studying how to guide them since long before ChatGPT landed on the scene and exploded in popularity. The second thing is graph generation models, because we found that a lot of the things we're wanting to generate can be represented as a graph. For example, a code repository can be a tree, a file system is a tree, databases can be modeled as a heterogeneous graph. And so we also use autoregressive models for any IT elements whose generation can be decomposed into a sequential process. We use deep variational autoencoders for our image generation work. And lastly, we use temporal point processors to model when events take place and who's communicating with whom on networks, like IT networks and social networks and so on. And many of our solutions involve combining two or more of these approaches. So Rita wanted me to do this one. So why generative modeling? So the idea of generative modeling is that you take a data set and you get your model to learn the true distribution of that data. And then once you've got that model, you can sample from that learned distribution to create new and unseen data, which is exactly what we're wanting to do in our cyber deception use case. All right, so to say a little bit about what we've done. So we've developed a suite of deception tools. Some of it has been patented, but we've got an array of open source honeypot generation tools that can generate artifacts, including a live email server that actually sends emails to employees in the organization, modeling the underlying dynamics of who's communicating with whom and what times, and of course also generating the texts of those communications. We've got a honey files generator that focuses on generating unique layouts and charts and images and text to populate like customized documents. We've got honey code to create code repositories and so on. And so just to wrap up this one, I'll say a bit about what we're interested in. So on top of these generating these realistic honeypot technologies, we're also interested in how people interact with our deceptions. And we've been looking at this in relation to honey files. So we're interested in how enticing they are. And we're also interested in assembling all of the honeypots into fake environments where you've got traffic and user activity and it looks live and real. And so how to optimize that for cyber deception is one of our main interests. Having just explored cyber deception and its role in safeguarding our networks, I want to pivot to another strategy in our cybersecurity arsenal, and that is red versus blue team exercises. These simulations are not just games, they are essential rehearsals that prepare our critical infrastructure to withstand and repel real-world cyber threats. So this work's another cybersecurity CRC project. This time it's together with ECU University in Perth and Deakin University here and a whole host of industry partners, including the Western Australia Digital Government. So we're developing a cyber range to be able to simulate cyber events for training and upskilling of security teams. And our case study is a shipping port. So we're simulating a fictitious port in Western Australia with the help of the Pilbara Ports as one of our industry partners. So the goals of the project are, of course, to develop a sophisticated simulated digital environment to replicate real-world port infrastructures. And then we hold events where red teams playing the attackers devise and execute cyber attacks while the blue teams, being the defenders, work to detect, respond and mitigate these threats. And this hand-on approach is crucial for preparing our teams for the unexpected and inevitable in our cyber world. So whilst we run these events, we're of course capturing their behaviour data sets, so to try to understand what the teams are doing and how they organise and how they respond. And then the aim is to use that data to build an AI-driven avatar to assist the blue team. And just to put our marine ports case study into perspective, cyber attacks on marine ports and shipping are on the rise. As we know, we've had the recent attack on the DP World a few weeks ago, one of Australia's largest port operators, who handle approximately 40% of the nation's container trade. And we've got a handful of very serious other attacks in other countries in the world in the past 2 years as well. Yeah, and so if we talk about the benefits of these exercises, obviously breaches are very costly, as are blue team mistakes in incident response. So these training environments give the opportunity to upskill team members in a safe environment and practice understanding attacker tactics. So overall, these cyber range exercises are a valuable tool for preparing and equipping cybersecurity professionals with the skills and experience necessary to defend against ever-changing and growing threats of cyber attacks. Okay, so what are we trying to capture in these events? So we are simulating a shipping channel. So we've got the ships going through a narrow channel that's not very deep, and we're also simulating like the loading and sort of transportation of cargo around the facility. To do this, we have various IT and OT components, such as SCADA systems to control and monitor industrial processes. So SCADA systems are extensively used in industry for industrial automation and infrastructure management. And so we also have IoT sensors, for example, that measure the depth of the water in the channel. And you've of course got the whole IT network with your SIEM solution that's sending alerts to the blue team. So during the events, the blue team has to negotiate change management with the white team. They have to practice perimeter defense and OT and IoT defense scenarios. Our OT components, like I said, are including things like the conveyor belt, and we've got trains and so on. And the IoT components are like various sensor networks. And so we also have like a physical demonstrator and various things on the wall showing all the stuff that the blue team would be monitoring in the real world. So we've got a ship that's moving and it will crash if the attack is successful, or we've got like the containers loading that will overflow if that's been attacked, and so on and so forth. So this is just like a really high level figure of the framework. So we've got basically the cyber range, it's got your SIEM, your endpoint detection of sort of intrusions and so on. And then we've got the blue team like talking to each other on Slack. And then we've got the avatar sort of bringing in suggestions on what they should be doing and sort of helping them to not make errors and so on. Yeah, so talking a bit more about how we are developing this avatar to work alongside the blue team. So this is still early stage work that's in progress, but incident response analysts have a tough job. They get a lot of alerts, far too many to investigate all of them. And what happens is they get alert fatigue, they have trouble prioritizing their alerts, they get stressed in the high pressure environment of an active attack. And so this avatar is to help them with their challenges. And so the idea initially when we started out the project was that we would collect the training data from sort of casually observing the expert behavior during the red versus blue team events. But we soon discovered that it's actually very challenging to collect sufficient detailed gold standard data as a casual observer. And what I mean by that is that these events aren't run for us to collect the gold standard data, they're run to upskill the blue and red team members. So that scenario isn't optimized for data collection. So yeah, trying to like capture their situational awareness and then clean out everything when they break business rules and stuff that we wouldn't want an avatar to be recommending has been tough. So our solution has been to start with GPT as the sort of foundational knowledge, and then add extra components on top, let's say, to steer it to make useful suggestions and add sort of situational awareness, and let's say that. And then during the event, we collect the feedback of the users to try and improve this avatar over time. So yeah, the input to the avatars, we've got like the SEAM alerts, which is bubbling up sort of any indications of an attack in real time. So that gets fed into the avatar. We've got the blue team work tickets. So they're like something like Jira. They're creating things saying what they're working on. And they've also got Slack. So they're chatting to each other in Slack. And the avatar's got all of that as its input. And then it's trying to also automate the workflow ticket creation for them, prevent them from breaking business rules. So I'll say, are you really sure you want to bring down, you know, this important business sort of system if they're about to do that? And of course, it suggests incident response actions to them. We're sort of running, I've been asked to make this like quick, so we'll skip through this. This is just sort of a picture of the very high level avatar architecture. And this is just sort of showing the deployment and the features. So it sort of creates a work ticket with the alert that it may have been triggered by, suggested response, it allows regeneration, suggests a person in the team that should look at it. And it creates the ticket for you. And of course, we have a free chat capability in there as well. And then we're collecting the users' feedback on the product as we go. And I just want to say for anyone in the audience that's sort of interested in research in this area, we're also looking at the space of reinforcement learning-based autonomous agents and how to make them explainable, how to make them have lifelong learning abilities, and robustness to adversarial attacks, if anyone wants to come and chat about that. And yeah, that's the end. Thank you.
Thank you for taking us through the very important work that you're doing. Really appreciate it. I'd like to welcome Luke on stage. He's coming over. Luke is a solution architect at NVIDIA who looks after Southeast Asia, Australia, New Zealand, and he brings a wealth of knowledge, and he's going to take us on a bit of a journey about some of the amazing things Gary was telling us about, like Nemo and the Omniverse. So over to you, Luke. I hand you the clicker.
Good one. Thanks, mate.
Pleasure.
My name's Luke Boyce. I'm a solutions architect. I'm based here in Melbourne, and great to see so many local examples of AI being used in different industries here today. I'm standing in for Dr. Johan Bartholomew, who's been heavily involved in a lot of the startup community around Australia before pivoting back to a research role. So I'd like to just acknowledge and thank him for putting together this deck.
I am a translator, transforming text into creative discovery. Movement into animation, and direction into action. I am a healer, exploring the building blocks that make us unique. Modeling new threats before they happen. and searching for the cures to keep them at bay. I am a visionary, generating new medical miracles. And giving us a new perspective on our sun to keep us safe here on Earth. I am a navigator, discovering a unique moment in a sea of content.
We are announcing the next generation.
And the perfect setting for any story. I am a creator, building 3D experiences from snapshots and adding new levels of reality to our virtual selves. I am a helper, bringing brainstorms to life.
From different angles.
Sharing the wisdom of a million programmers. And turning ideas into virtual worlds.
Build a northern forest.
I even helped write the script. Breathe life into the words and composed the melody. I am AI, brought to life by NVIDIA, deep learning, and brilliant minds everywhere.
So today we're going to talk a bit about generative AI, which has been covered. We're going to talk about Omniverse for use cases with digital twins, and then touch very briefly on how you can get started and be part of our developer community. So generative AI, this slide would have presented this, I don't know, a dozen times in the last couple of weeks, but it's really become real for me today, sitting in the audience and listening to the guys like from Catatonic and True Recognition and Archistar and Apparition and those guys, where if you look at this slide, it's saying that generative AI is going to be adopted across a broad range of industries, and from what you've seen in this room, you can see that's actually starting to take place, whether it's for like an architectural and design point of view, where you've got architect creating these really fast iterative designs for an approval process, or whether you've got True Recognition doing digital twins in Omniverse of a retail space, or you've got with COVID, the hunt for a vaccine, we had generative AI being used for biomedical research as well, accelerating the time it takes to come on with a vaccine by a factor of 5. So it's already being adopted across all of these industries, and it's really good to see that happening. So why do we use generative AI? I guess it enables us to create a lot of content a lot more quickly than what it would just with people manually doing these things. So from a vision model perspective, like Stable Diffusion, we can create, by just chatting with the model, we can ask it to create new characters for games or for media campaigns. We can create new fabrics and textures to be used in design processes for new garments and things like that. We can describe the environment that we want to see our building visualised within and go and paint those canvases in a real time in a very low effort scenario. We can create 3D content to be used in digital twins as well. Like setting up a digital twin, anyone who's tried to do it, you need a lot of 3D assets to already exist before you can bring them together in the world. So using generative AI to build some of those assets rather than to have them in advance saves us a lot of time and allows us to unlock downstream value of those digital twins more quickly. The way we can do that with image-based generative AI is not too different to the way we do it with language models. So in language models, we use characters and feed that in to generate new characters and new content that's unique based on the data set that it was derived from. In an image-based scenario, we're doing that with pixels and using that same approach. So why would I use text-based generative AI? You've already seen plenty of good examples of this, whether it's like using Apparition's use case for creating an intelligent augmented chatbot to help telco resource at the edge troubleshoot a problem. It could be Mahesh's example of an automotive supplier where they're ringing up a call service. We don't want to replace that call service. We still want that human interaction, but we can listen to the conversations, transcribe it to text, drop it into our generative AI model, and search a knowledge base to return an intelligent answer in real time, so that we don't have to follow that call up later, and that our call centre resource can answer that question in real time. So how are organisations using this today? Most people are up in this less customisation space. So that's around ChatGPT, where we're consuming an API service, and all we're really doing is, by more or less trial and error, discovering the best way to ask that generative AI model a question and get the best response. So about 80% of the businesses we work with are in that space where they're not really doing a lot of customisation at all. The moderate customisation is where we think the real interesting stuff is going to happen, and that's around 15% of the enterprises we're working with. And that's where we're doing some moderate customisation, where we're introducing some new data into a model like Llama 2, or we're adjusting the weights of those models to give a more relevant answer. But we're not creating a large language model from scratch. Retrieval augmented generation, or RAG, is another use case that fits into that moderate customization space, which has come out of research really, really quickly. So that's where we'll take the user's prompt that they've come up with, and then we'll do a quick search of a vector database and pad that search results into our prompt and feed that into our LLM. So that way, when our LLM is frozen in time, the vector database is going to give us that real-time information and up-to-date piece we need from our enterprise knowledge base, and it's going to be fed into the prompt of the LLM, so it's contextually aware of the information we want it to respond with. And then in the far bottom right-hand side is where we've got extensive customization. So this is where people are building their own LLM from scratch, and really only 5% of the businesses we're seeing that we work with are at a scale where they actually have enough data to do that, have enough infrastructure and enough internal expertise to be able to go and build those models. So what are the requirements for any sort of customization of these generative AI models? We need really fast, accelerated computing and infrastructure. So someone like a Fujitsu can provide early access to that for POC work. We need tools to do our training and inference. So from an NVIDIA perspective, that would be our NeMo framework that allows you to work with many different open source LLMs and create your data curation pipelines and your training pipelines, and put the guardrails around it to keep the responses on message and free of toxicity. And then we need the expertise in the organisation as well. And the expertise is the hardest thing to come by. So NVIDIA, we've got some AI foundational model services which kind of help with the infrastructure piece and the expertise. So we've got NeMo for text-based generative AIs, BioNeMo for medical research, and Picasso for the stable diffusion style use case. So this allows a customer to have a data and a really good idea and bring that to us, and we'll help them retrain an existing LLM and optimize it for deployment at inference at large scale. And that way we can run it all on DGX Cloud. And so the infrastructure challenge is taken care of. And then we optimize it for inference, and then you can deploy it anywhere, whether it's on our cloud services, on Azure, on Fujitsu, or at your own data centers, or even at a telco edge type use case. So trying to help with those that expertise piece and the infrastructure piece. So the challenges have been talked about a lot. NEMO framework tries to address these challenges. So what we're doing is we've got a data curator tool where we can go out at internet scale, collect large amounts of information, strip out unwanted bits like HTML tags and headers and things like that, notate the source of that information, and then get it into a format that we can use in our embeddings to train our model. We've got the tooling itself to optimize those models for training when they run on multi-GPU systems, so that expensive infrastructure is going to run at a really efficient rate and return that trained model in as short a time as possible. And then we've got things in there like NEMO guardrails, which is going to handle keeping the model on topic. So, you know, if it's an automotive question, we don't want them responding with an answer about the current trend in interest rates. We want to keep it on topic, and we want to make sure that the response is free of toxicity and within the domain expertise of the model. So that's where guardrails comes in within that framework. Framework, like most of the software stack that NVIDIA does, is highly portable. So it doesn't have to be deployed on premise. You can deploy it anywhere where there's an NVIDIA GPU. So you could start off on a RTX 4090 in your gaming rig at home. You could scale that out onto Fujitsu's hosted environment or onto AWS or Azure. Everything in our software stack is highly portable. So the model architectures supported by NEMO, they're text-based, so like any of the GPTs or the BERTs. We support the Llama range of models now as well. From a text-to-image perspective, we support Stable Diffusion and other equivalents. And then for image-to-image use cases, we've got support for Dream Booth and our own Picasso use cases as well. So NVIDIA Picasso, just to expand on that a little bit, it actually handles all three of those use cases for generating image-based content. So we can do text-to-image, but text-to-video as well. So if I'm trying to describe a new marketing campaign, or I want to storyboard an example for a movie or something like that, then I can interact with the chatbot to get it to build a video of what I later want to go and film in more detail using real actors. I can use text to 3D, which is really exciting because I can describe like the workings of a basic gearbox or something like that, or an architectural design, and it'll go and generate a 3D asset that then I can export and use in tools like Omniverse or Revit or 3D Studio Max. So the trustworthy AI has been mentioned a little bit here today as well. So NVIDIA's doing some work on that as well. So trustworthy AI, we're talking about privacy. So what happens to any of the information you put into the model or the tool? How secure is it? How prone is it to data leakage? Transparency, so where does the data source come from? Explainability is a hard one for generative AI, but it's really prevalent in IVA use cases where we can more readily explain what the model's doing. And then the piece around bias again. So what is the level of inherent bias in that model? So about March, you started to see something called the model scorecard within all of our NGC content. So for those who aren't developers, ngc.nvidia.com is a repository where we put all of our open source models, frameworks and SDKs. It's where we put NVIDIA optimized versions of like PyTorch and TensorFlow. And we've started adding in that scorecard there as well. So not only are we doing CVE, scanning for known security vulnerabilities and patching those in place, but we're actually doing testing against the models and rating their trustworthiness as well. So skipping ahead to Omniverse. Omniverse is a tool for digital twins. So digital twins of any scale, it could be something like the Rimac car configurator example, and the other one we did with Mercedes, where we create a really high quality digital twin of a automobile, so a customer can come and change the fabric or the paint and see that in real time, put it in their own garage to get a good feel for it. It could be city scale, where we want to simulate the effect of overshadowing or lights when the way different buildings interact with each other from a heat island perspective, or it could be like Earth scale, where we're using our forecast net to train weather forecasting algorithms on our Earth 2 platform. All of those are built on Omniverse. So to do digital twins at any sort of scale, we don't want to reinvent the wheel, so we need to use open standards for data. So what we use for Omniverse is USD, or Universal Scene Descriptor, which is a data format pioneered by Pixar, actually, for moving 3D content around and interacting it with it in an iterative fashion and a non-destructive fashion, so we can have many groups of people working on that same set of data at the same time. The other piece of that is the connectability of it. So we're never going to displace something like Revit from a architectural studio, because it's too embedded and it's too useful as a tool. So we connect from Revit and allow that data to be translated from a Revit model into USD, so it can be worked on in an open format. And then within Omniverse as well, we've got platforms for AI agents. So if I want to pan or move or zoom or interrogate a particular part of the model, then I can use AI to interact with that digital twin in an intuitive way, or I can use that to do low effort simulations. So where did Omniverse come from? It's something that we actually built internally to handle some of these really large scale use cases that we have of our own. I think from 2024 we'll be shipping our drive technology, which is for autonomous vehicles with Mercedes and Volvo and BMW and a few of the other electric car manufacturers. So to train an autonomous vehicle, it requires a huge amount of data. Like Tesla being out on the road, driving cars, collecting data and telemetry as they go, or using imported or purchased data from something like the Google Earth cars you see driving around. It just doesn't get you to the scale of data you need. So we need to start to use synthetic data for some of these training use cases. So what DriveSim is doing is it's using Omniverse to go out and do a scan of an environment, or use reconstructive generative AI technology to take video footage and turn that into 3D assets that can then be imported into Omniverse at city scale, where we can run physically accurate photorealistic simulations of that environment and plug the Drive software and modules into that virtual environment, and the car can drive around in this simulated environment, having to obey traffic laws, watch out for pedestrians, work with poor lighting or rain, and do that hundreds of times faster than you could actually ever train that car in the real world. So that's making that drive sim possibility a reality. And then Isaac Sim is probably my favourite one, which is almost like a training gym for robotics. So Isaac Sim connects to common programming languages for robotics, and again allows you to pragmatically train that robot in the virtual world before you ever go through the expense of having to build the robot in the physical world. So again, we can train the robot for all sorts of unique warehouse or interactions with people, and do it in a much quicker time frame using synthetic data than what we ever could in the real world. So yeah, just some examples of where Omniverse has been used outside of our own toy bag. In the real world, it's being used in Deutsche Bahn to simulate their entire train network. So this is something that Transport New South Wales has looked at doing a couple of times. Deutsche Bahn, they've got, I think, 5,700 stations and 33,000 kilometres of rail track. they've actually built that that digital twin in Omniverse, and they're using it for all sorts of things around training people for maintenance shutdown windows, for doing maintenance prediction, and also eventually training autonomous trains as well, and route optimization around the network. So improving efficiencies of trains and timetables and things like that. We can simulate those and simulate the impact of an outage across the network in the digital twin. BMW, General Motors and Mercedes are using the platform for digital twins of their factories. So that could be for, I guess, building these massive robotics factories for assembling cars is very expensive. But we build the whole thing in the digital twin first, get the layout right, simulate and train the robotics for the different use cases. All happens before the shovel hits the ground on any of the construction. And just closing out with a quick plug for the developer program. So all of the tools and SDKs, again, to Gary's point, not just a GPU company, but we're an accelerated computing company. So we do have the infrastructure piece, but we've got all of these libraries to easily get started with accelerated computing. And then if the libraries aren't for you, we've got the application frameworks and SDKs to simplify the problem again. So in like an IVA use case where I need to detect people in a video feed, you can use our PeopleNet for that rather than having to train your own model, and just drop that into your enterprise or your ISV application. If you want to be able to track the same person across multiple cameras without collecting any biometrics data, it's a really difficult problem to solve, a really difficult model to build. You can just use our DeepStream microservices SDK to solve that problem. So you can get on building the business logic and creating the value out of those applications without having to start from scratch. So all you need to get access to almost all of those libraries and SDKs is to sign up for a free NVIDIA developer account. So you can just hit the QR code, or you can go to ngc.nvidia.com and sign up for that free account and start playing with our tech. And then the DevRel community within NVIDIA is there for independent software companies like True Recognition and Apparition and the others to actually help them along with their idea and their journey and make it easier for everyone to get started with our technology. And that's where I'll finish off. Thanks, Rita. Thanks.
Thanks, Luke. Thanks for taking us through what can be seemingly complicated in a really wonderful way. Really appreciate it. Thank you. We've got some really exciting stuff about to happen, and that is Showcase 2. All right, over to you.
This is forward?
Yes.
Beauty. All right, awesome. Thanks very much to the National AI Centre and our sponsors, Fujitsu, NVIDIA and Australian Industry Group, for getting us along. My name's Kirby Ellis and I lead our customer engagement at Zana.ai. Now, we live in a world where critical infrastructure is the backbone for modern Australian society. And over the past couple of months, we've seen massive disruptions to our ports and our communication services. There has never been a better time to have these conversations. Security is paramount in critical infrastructure. The government's latest cyber report calls out more than 140 attacks against critical infrastructure in the last financial year. Curium is built with this in mind. With our platform, it doesn't just adapt. It learns, it evolves, it anticipates and predicts threats. So you and your team, you can identify anomalies, you can mitigate risks, and you can take on emerging challenges in real time. This is a force multiplier for your security teams. Now, beyond security, Curium is tailored to enhance operational efficiencies. So whether you're managing energy grids or power networks, hospitals, 5G towers or ATMs, Curium can help you improve your decision-making, optimise your workflows, and automate across your entire organisation. Curium is built to address gaps in the market between the traditional players and what your industry requires, right? Because we're sovereign, our approach to security and privacy is different. Turium has been engineered so that critical infrastructure operators can get the benefits of using generative AI technologies without the risk of leaking sensitive data. Turium is your digital AI twin because it's trained on your data, not just generic information from the web. So think about your annual reports and your databases, like your GIS and your sensor feeds. All of this, structured, unstructured, it doesn't matter. So so what we're talking is about taking all of that data across your entire organisation and letting your teams interact with that using natural language in a safe and secure way. Turium AI is more than a technology investment. It's a strategic decision that aligns with national security, operational excellence and innovation. Sovereign, secure, private, personalised. Thanks very much for your time. We'd love to speak to you by the stand. Cheers.
Thank you. Amazing.
Hello everyone, thank you for joining and thanks CSIRO for having us. I'm Simon, CEO and co-founder of Redgrid GPT. At Redgrid GPT, we are leading AI innovation into the energy industry. Energy industry has very specific needs and we play squarely in this model. Our mission as a business is tackling the third D of the energy transition, which is digitisation. There's a flood of energy assets coming onto our systems. The ability to coordinate and organise these assets is a core problem, and that's what we're on a mission to solve. In our 4 years of operation of Redgrid GPT, we've been delivering groundbreaking projects to the new energy sector in line with that mission. We've built a pretty deep and unique pool of expertise in our company, including sustainability champions, AI specialists, process automation specialists, product leads, machine learning Gen AI leaders, as well as forecasting, prediction and software developers. So just cutting back to the energy system and why it's specific and its unique needs. The grids and the businesses around them at the moment are under immense pressure. They're having to move from a model where it was predictable feeder consumer-based model to now a multiplayer game with a sea of new assets flooding into the system every day and in growing numbers. This is putting massive pressure on all energy providers in terms of resource constraints, process inefficiencies, cybersecurity and planning, as well as data modelling and data control. The old methods for dealing with this is just not sufficient anymore for this industry, and this is where our company come in. So we bring our technology experts into your business, and we engage with your strategy team to define, discover and implement AI strategies and Gen AI strategies within your business. And the strategies that we implement help solve problems, optimise operations, and accelerate the transition and ultimately help your business win. And there's some enormous efficiencies to be gained, especially in this industry that's going through such a transition. So it's a very busy market at the moment. So as a business, we have investment from and we're partially owned by Mirvac Group. We're also part of the Microsoft Innovation Hub ecosystem, and we have some very deep expertise, especially in the Microsoft AI practice. One of our team, Rupert Walsh, was previously global lead for Microsoft AI incubation, and he runs most of our customer discovery workshops. We've also delivered projects with 2 UN award winners, and we work closely with Monash Energy Institute and Clayton as well. And we've delivered projects for government, infrastructure, retail, new energy and property developers. And I should also say we're also a proud company of the Latrobe Valley, so we're based out in Morwell and a pretty passionate supporter and driver of the energy and resource transformation in that region, which is basically the heartland of energy for Victoria. So yeah, come and visit us out at the conference room, and we've got a demo on some of the work that we've done with Neighbourhood and Community Battery modelling out there, or scan the code above, and we'll have a chat about how we can help your business win. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. Go more work. All right. Come on down, Nick. I feel like I'm in a game show. All right. And you've got some cool stuff to talk about.
Hi everyone, my name's Nick. I'm one of the co-founders of Hologram. At Hologram, we build augmented reality software for fabrication tasks and construction. We come from a background in architecture and robotic automation, established in 2017, and now have a specific range of sort of clients in the education, architecture, fabrication, construction, industrial design and research, and about 90-95% of those clients are actually overseas, but Australia's a great place to live. We started Hologram because we were sick of having to rationalise our designs down to something that people were actually willing to build. So we design in 3D, we build in 3D, but then the entire industry spends all this time trying to convert those into 2D shop drawings. The problem with that is, one, it takes a lot of time. Two, you can have a whole lot of mistakes around actually interpreting that information, and it's just generally not that efficient in terms of how to do it. So at a simple level, we take the client's 3D models, we link up to their CAD platforms, and so you can see a 3D hologram of what you're trying to build. And like we're seeing here in the footage here, that allows you to do things such as overlaying holograms in the real world on analog tools, increasing their efficiency and being able to build complex parts. If we go to the next thing. And so we're really interested in fabrication, where so much often innovation is thought of like you're going to bring in a whole lot of robots to replace your existing workflows. We're actually more interested in how do we work with your existing workflows, your existing workers and the skills they have, just making their job easier to do things such as this, where you're doing overlays of those digital models on the actual fabricated part. So yeah, if you've got any sort of bottlenecks within your manufacturing industry, or you're trying to build something complex, we'd be interested to have a chat. Adios.
Thank you. We have pie exchange.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
So, okay, here we go. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kwon. I'm the founder of PI Exchange, and we are a deep tech company based in Melbourne. We specialize in building machine learning solution and platform. So I'm here today to talk about a common pain point in developing and running machine learning solution. It is about the inaccessibility of it. I think many of you has been around and with many different organizations, and you see that you have been trying to amass large amount of data and try to make sense from the data, right? Try to get value, try to get prediction and insights from it. And I think we all see a very interesting problem from here. We all see the value, but try to get into it, we face many difficulties. And from many years of experience in this particular space, myself and my team, we see that three main barriers where we or any business want to develop a machine learning solution. Right? The first one is a cost barrier. Doesn't matter how much value from the data. Try to get started with any machine learning solution require a lot of upfront investment and also ongoing financial commitment into the project. Many often we can't really guarantee the return on investment upfront, and it leads to a lot of problems. Try to kick up the project on by itself. The second barrier is the expertise. Right? We need a lot of human capital. I'm talking about data scientists. I'm talking about machine learning engineer, and together with the current skill shortage these days, it's not an easy kind of barrier to overcome. For both large companies with a lot of resources as well as, and particularly more severe for smaller, small and medium businesses. And the last one is the complexity barrier. complexity here is in terms of the technologies, in terms of like, how you kind of like navigate through a lot of complex concepts from algorithm, from like data preparation, machine learning pipeline, ML ops, DevOps, that kind of things. And it's not a straight line. It's not kind of like you want to get from raw data to, the production ready and easy to use prediction. There's no straight line for that. So, the kind of like the problem right now is that a lot of people try to get into machine learning, try to use it, embrace it, but a lot of people actually have to sit on the sidelines, and because they're unable to start, they're unable to realize the power of machine learning and make themselves kind of like create a competitive edge for their own business. So that's where we come from. PA-Exchange, at PA-Exchange, we developed we call it a no-code, automated machine learning and data science platform. What we try to do is that we want to empower business users, analysts, developers, and even data scientists, a way to actually easily develop and manage and run machine learning solution all by themselves, rather than rely on a large amount of resources and assistance from the outside, right? So PA-Exchange offer that platform, and we offer a set of very easy to use and flexible features like data preparation, smart model development, and production deployment for the models, so that at the end of the day, if you need to look at like, deploy your customized, machine learning pipeline, or, even if you want to just go straight from data into production insights, we offer also template for you to use this easily, right? So imagine that you're not gonna take a lot of time to build up the pipeline and managing it, but you go straight from raw data into production insights. So on our platform, we also offer varieties of tools to allow you to look at like model performance. You're looking at stuff like help you to look at the behavior of the model, understand how it's behaved, what contribute to the model behavior and the accuracies of it, so that you can build the model in the responsible way. And last but not least, right, the template I'm talking about create a very straightforward pathway from the data to the production kind of like prediction and insight straightforwardly. That's the straight line that I would like to talk about, when you use our platform for machine learning solution development. At the moment, our platform is really catered for a wide variety of use cases in the space of retail industry, like price optimization, demand forecasting, predictive maintenance, and demand customer churn and customer segmentation, for example. So yeah, hopefully that we can have a chat with you guys today when you start building your machine learning journey at our stand. And thank you very much.
Thank you. Do you want to just stay for one? We're just going to get a little group photo, and I'm going to invite our last but most exciting presenter, because she's doing something really amazing, Marty. Come on down, Marty. Marty is a principal research scientist and the deputy lead of the Critical Infrastructure Protection and Resilience Mission at CSIRO. You may have seen the game that we have up the end. It's not poker, it's actually a role play for a cybersecurity incident. But I'm going to ask Marty to just tell us a bit about missions, and then we're going to have a break and a networking session and more food and more fun. Over to you.
Thank you, Rita. Hi, everybody. As Rita said, I'm Marty Grobler, and I am Deputy Lead for our Critical Infrastructure Protection and Resilience, or CIPR mission at CSIRO. Now, what we as a mission do is to work to keep Australia's critical infrastructure safe and working for you, no matter what. Specifically, we support critical infrastructure by recovering faster, minimizing negative impacts, and building the skills we need within Australia. So let me tell you a bit about CSIRO-led missions and why we are here. Now, CSIRO is currently committing over $1 million per year through its mission program, with the objective of increasing this to $230 million by 2025. These national missions involve all CSIRO researchers, but we can't do this alone. So we're really strongly leaning on government support, industry support, and everybody else who has a vested interest in critical infrastructure, which should pretty much be everybody on this continent. So these missions are put in place, firstly, to solve Australia's greatest challenges. These challenges are a national focus, it's national problems, and the intent is to have a national-based solution as well. These challenges are big, so it cannot be addressed in isolation or individual focus areas. So we are focusing on collaborative efforts with all the partners involved to make sure that we have a solution that fits a lot of people. We are looking at national science and technology capabilities. So the idea is, again, to leverage what we have in both government and industry, putting those skills and knowledge together to get out a stronger capacity and capability afterwards, with the intent to deliver scalable, evidence-based solutions. And then in the end, this will span cross-sector, cross-discipline, and cross-system, because critical infrastructure is critical and it's integrated into everything that we do. Now, as you can see here, CSIRO missions are bound by a very specific structure. So let's start with challenge-led. As I said, this is national focus, and we're looking at something big that is a problem for a lot of people. So we're looking at a solution that will make things easier for a lot of people. It is time-bound, so we're looking at a time frame of around 7 to 10 years. It is outcomes focused, so we're looking at tangible outputs and systemic change. It's not just a quick fix. This is a big thing, a big focus with the intent to make a real and tangible difference. It's also shared direction. So it's not something that CSIRO wants to do. It is something that everybody who has a finger in this would like to do and would like to see, with the intent to scale this to a national level and eventually also look at this from an international scope. So on the slide there, you can see that CSIRO has already launched 8 missions, which has very big focus areas. They also have 5 developing missions, of which the CSIRO mission is 1. Now, although we are fairly early in our journey, so less than a year old, we have made considerable progress. We've spoken to more than 90 different external stakeholders. We have 6 active projects currently running, and just to give you an indication of that, we have one project of about 1.4 million with government and industry partners that is focusing on consumer-owned energy resources. We also have other projects with the Cybersecurity Cooperative Research Centre, such as our exciting corporate compromise that's downstairs, in the expo room. So please have a look. But all of these, the intent is to focus on critical infrastructure and enabling Australia as a nation to come together and to solve this, or to at least make it a lot easier for us to focus on what we do. Now, we have identified that mission-oriented innovation impact can best be achieved by intervention where Australia's critical infrastructure is the most vulnerable. And that is where all of these areas come together. So on the slide there, you can see that we found through our discussions that hazards are increasingly becoming connected. We are currently focusing on climate-related hazards. We're looking at supply chain, and we're also looking at cyber, and you'll see there we've got a placeholder because we know something else is coming, and we want to be prepared when that comes. Now, all of those hazards, obviously they each have a role to play, but if you combine any of those, any 2 or 3 of those, it will have a significantly larger impact. So what we are looking at is that intersection to see where things can really go wrong. Now, I'll give you 2 examples there. So in our recent Optus data breach, network outage. So despite the obvious ones that I want to say, that people couldn't connect to the internet, they couldn't call, they couldn't get to the emergency because they couldn't call an ambulance, there was also other repercussions. So, for example, one of my team members couldn't come to the office that day because they have a toddler, or a younger kid, who needs to go to kindergarten, and the kindergarten just said, sorry, I can't take custody of your kid because if something happens, I can't reach you because your phone is not working. So something like that, which had repercussions because that person couldn't come to the office and work. So there's a lot of, I want to say, implications that we haven't thought about before that we really need to consider, because that is where the impact is. And then on the last, or at the bottom there, you can see that we are working with the critical infrastructure owners and operators with the intent to get to our communities and make this better or easier to live the life that we want to live within Australia. Now, as I said, we've spoken to a lot of external stakeholders, and we can roughly group our gaps into 3 areas. First, we've got the hazard interconnection. So as I said, that interconnection between the different hazards and how that complicates matters when multiple hazards happen at the same time. We have the sector interdependencies. So as I mentioned with the Optus example, where if something happens in one sector, it can spill over and have an impact on other sectors as well. And then lastly, we have that converging vulnerabilities. Now, as you can imagine through that, there's a lot of space for AI to play a role. So AI can be used in hazard identification, it can be forecasting intersector dependencies, simulate disruption impacts, advanced planning, holistic viewing, name it. And if you have something that you can add to that list, please come and speak to me afterwards. But overall, we're looking at those 3 areas. So let me move on and show you where we're at the moment. So as I mentioned, we've got those 3 main focus areas that we are looking at now, but with the intent or the open mind that if something new comes along, we will definitely add that in. As one of our earlier speakers mentioned, cyber and trusted insider threats. So in the ASD report, they said that there was 143 cyber events reported on critical infrastructure in the previous financial year. And that's a lot, because this is not a small company. This has an effect on a significantly large proportion of our nation. The second one there, natural disasters and climate-related threats. So I think there's a report by KPMG that estimated in the previous financial year, more than 70% of the population were affected by natural disasters. That is a significant proportion of the nation. And then supply chain disruptions. I need to share an example there again. So last year, beginning of last year, there was a lot of floods up north. That had an impact, obviously, on the communities who were affected by that, but it had a ripple effect on the supply chain because the roads were damaged and the trucks couldn't get past to bring the produce from up north, which means that people in Melbourne had to pay $20 for a small piece of lettuce just because of stuff that is happening in a different sector. So I think that is a very good example to show how these all interrelate and how it can have a ripple effect that cascades and make it a very big problem. So if we look at that convergence, so on the one hand, we've got the hazards, and on the other hand, we've got our interdependent sectors and systems, and that is what we are looking at. So where we are currently standing with CSIRO is on the one side, we have Work Package 1, which is focusing on our hazards, and working to get a better understanding of the risks and vulnerabilities that is currently out there. So we have found that a lot of sectors have a lot of skills and knowledge in their sector. Now we need to get working to share that knowledge with the other sectors or learn from each other or extrapolate or whatever we can to leverage the capabilities and skills that we already have in place. On the right-hand side, we've got the Work Package 2, which is focusing on systems. And this one specifically, we're looking at that supply chain element. So looking at physical supply chain, looking at digital supply chain, but also looking at the software supply chain. So with that, we're covering all spectrums. Anything that could be dependent on something else is covered in that space because it all could have an impact on critical infrastructure. And then that last work package at the bottom is sectors. So we are referring to those as our critical sectors, which is debatable on which those are. But if you think about it, with Optus that went down, there was a lot of other repercussions, other sectors who couldn't operate as intended. Same as with energy. If energy goes down, if water goes down, it has a significant ripple effect on a lot of people that is not directly connected to that sector. So with that, we are looking at all of those interdependencies to see how can we minimize the harm. So if possible, either isolate it to the sector where it is focused on, or just uplift the recovery process so that we can bounce back quicker. Now, CSIRO has 4 main aims. Firstly, lower risk. Naturally, if there's lower risk, then there would be lower repercussions. But the main aim here is if we can understand what the problems is and what the vulnerabilities and the risks are, then we can do something about it. You can't do something about something that you don't know. Very simple. The second one there is to recover faster. So every time something happens, we need to aim to get that recovery or bouncing back much quicker so that people can go on with their lives. Nobody wants to get stuck in whatever cycle or the repercussions of internet not working or the transport not working. You just want to get back to your job and what you need to do. That's what we're trying to do with Recovery Faster. And with that, also that essential services. We want to make sure that you can do what you need to do, even if there are repercussions. The third one there is minimize harm. Now, if we have protective evidence-based solutions, the intent is there that we can limit the exposure that we have for our communities afterwards. And then the last one is building sovereign capability. I think if COVID has taught us anything, we need to be prepared. If we are cut off as a nation again, we need to have the skills local, and not only in the major cities. We need to have the skills and capabilities in all areas, and with that, not just in the major cities. We also need to be able to have that capacity in the remote and rural areas so that we can do all of the others. So minimize harm, recover fast, and lower risk, because we have a lot of people who know what they are doing and have the capabilities and skills and technology and equipment and infrastructure ready to go when there is a crisis. So I thank you for today. It was great to talk to you all. On the bottom, there's my contact details and also my colleague Alex, who also has a similar button. So if you have an idea or you would like to speak to us, please reach out to us. Otherwise, I'll see you down in the expo with the corporate compromise if anybody wants to have another go at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Amazing. Well, that's been a lot to learn today, and I think I wanted to just close with two really important points. Probably the first one is that what we're finding is that for AI to be more responsible, what we're finding is that if a CEO is involved, you actually get a much better outcome. So my advice to you is to work more closely with your stakeholders and bring in those senior people. If you want to know more about responsible AI, we have the Responsible AI Network, where we're looking at laws and standards and design and leadership and principles, technology and governance. And we still have a lot of opportunity to check out some National AI Centre AI Month events. We've got a fantastic virtual webinar coming up on the 29th, which is about standards and how we're going to deploy them in AI, and it's about data-centric AI. We've got two Fairies AI workshop on LLM and RAG, a new word we all learnt today. So that'll be a great one to attend virtually. We've got our National AI Centre and CEDA event coming up in Sydney. Amazon Web Services have available a whole foundation course on the AI revolution, which is virtual on the 11th of December. There's an amazing expo you can attend in Cremorne on the 13th of December. And for those of you who are looking at investing, we have an Invest Responsibly in AI at Melbourne Connect. Okay. That's it. I have to make some thank yous. You may meet these people around the traps here at the expo. I need to thank Brett, the Executive Manager of the National AI Centre, Alex, who's over there, Eloise, who a lot of you may have met, who's been doing a lot of work around the industry program, and of course, Rita Arrigo, the event manager. No, that's Katie Ferrugia, who's the event manager. My apologies. But Katie, who you may have talked to. So thank you very, very much. We're closing the conference now, and we'd like to invite you to come and continue the expo. I hear we have scones, so it would be wonderful if you could join us there. And meanwhile, just a few links for you to check out more about National AI Centre. Thank you.